Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chemi. It was not mentioned that Chemi is running the biggest VC fund in Israel, and so far, I think they invested in how many? 250 companies, which is not bad. One word about Mr. Peres, I must add, about Shimon Peres. Though he was not a technologist, all of us were amazed in his ability to foresee much before every technologist the effect of technology on society, on social issues, on industry, on agriculture, and on many other things. The panel of today, we will discuss and try to learn how you create a unicorn. We have here two young Israelis which are right now building two amazing companies, and I will start by asking each one of them to introduce himself and to tell us what he's trying to build. Adam, why don't we start with you? You are the youngest of us, right?
I'm older than you. Every year at Taboola, it's like 10. It's like Dog's Life Plus. So technically, I'm very old.
Get it closer to your mouth, otherwise they will not hear you.
I was saying Dog's Life. So my name is Singolda. Thanks for having me. Taboola is, you know, when you read the news on many, many websites, at the bottom of the article it says, you may also like recommending you more things that you may want to read or watch. We do that. I started 10 years ago. That's it?
More or less. Taboola is the product which distracts you from your main interest in reading articles by offering you all kinds of attractive thumbnails at the bottom of the page.
So what I wanted to say is that we distract you from the article that you're reading into other things you may like and never knew existed.
And tell us a little bit about yourself, Adam. How old are you?
I'm 35. I look a lot older, but I'm 35.
When did you start? How old you were when you started the company?
I started back in Tel Aviv in Israel. I grew up in Israel. Before this, Taboola is my first job. I spent 7 years in the Israeli army. Before Taboola, I was an engineer back there. What else should I say?
What was your first job after you finished the army?
Taboola.
Taboola.
Yeah.
So you came to the business with no early experience.
No, I didn't know what P&L was when I started Taboola, so I never went to undergrad school. But I did have it up.
We will ask you some questions regarding this later. Dave, tell us, what are you doing? Who are you? What your company is doing?
So my name is Dave Waiser. I'm CEO and founder of Gett. Gett is a mobility company in transportation space. We are focusing on Europe and US, operating in 100 cities right now. The company is still, from one hand, it's already an enterprise. We generate more than $1 billion in revenues, but at the same time, it's still growing at threefold a year, and the challenges according to that.
How long ago you started the company?
We started the company 6 years ago, so I was 35.
6 years ago. And how many people you employ now?
We are 1,500 now.
1,500. And how many drivers you are now part of your network?
Right now, few hundred thousands. We expect to be 500,000 of drivers by the end of this year.
500,000 drivers. And you know, like Alexander Mokadon, you know, he knew, the famous general, knew all his soldiers by name. You know all your drivers by name, right?
I wish, yes.
Yeah. So you have 1,500 people, 500,000 drivers going to 900,000. How many customers?
Tens of millions right now.
Tens of millions.
Yeah.
And this is only the beginning.
It's still growing nicely, yes.
Still growing. Good. Let's go back to you, Adam. So you started a company 10 years ago. Let's admit it, you didn't have much of experience, right?
None. I mean, I knew how to write code, even though at Taboola, they don't allow me to write code. They don't think I'm good enough. But yeah, the only experience I had was writing code before this.
Yeah, but to run a business and to employ people, you need a little bit. So when you raise money, what did you explain to your investors when they ask you what was your earlier experience,
I mean,
which qualify you to create business?
I don't think I was qualified to create a business at first. I was able to, I was lucky to get an angel investor to believe in me and give me a little bit of money. It was a little less than $200,000. That's how we started Taboola 10 years ago. The first 5 years were rough because I couldn't make the business work. We were building the technology and product. And every time we met VCs, everybody said no. We didn't meet the bar on getting money from investors. So we were lucky to get friends and family and angel investors and one VC that backed us back then.
Now, put your hand on your heart. Put your hand on your heart and tell me the truth, but I want the truth. Would you accept today in Taboola somebody with this kind of experience to work in the company, not in coding, but in the general business?
Yes, and I want to explain this. So actually, the way we hire people, so I would never be hired at Taboola, but I want to tell you how we hire people, which is, I think we had a lot of success with inexperienced people. So we actually look for passionate people, intelligent people, and kind people. And we found that when you look for passion, intelligence, and kindness, people stick around longer, they have something to win with you, and they grow with you, and they learn pretty quickly things that experienced people already know. You see, experienced people are afraid to make mistakes, and they're afraid to put their name out there on things that you need to do. So from us, it's always been a much better path.
So you came with no business experience, with no VC backing, just with chutzpah, I may say, passion.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
and where the company stand today? How many people you employ?
So we're now 750 employees.
Revenues?
Almost $1 billion this year.
Almost $1 billion.
We've been profitable for 3 years. We hire a person a day somewhere around the world. We operate in 50 markets. And we've raised over the years $160 million. Most of it is still in the bank.
So maybe in order to create unicorn, you have to come with no experience, and then you are not limited by your past.
I'm not sure. But the first 5 years at Taboola were pretty bad, and I'm not sure it wasn't because I didn't know better. So maybe I could have saved investors 5 years of going in the desert with me and not succeeding.
Not bad for 25 years old kid. Dave, I read in the paper that about half a year ago, you got some very strategic investment. This is after 6 years. You said you are in business 6 years. Started in 2010, 11. 500,000 drivers. How many cities? 100?
100 right now, yes. In the past, it took us about 6 months to launch a city with a team of 10 people. In the last quarter, we launched 30 cities with a team of 4. So it's getting better on that. Yeah.
So what was your last strategic investment? Can you share with us, please?
Yeah, we've been lucky to partnership with the #1 car manufacturer in the world, the Volkswagen Group.
Volkswagen. Anybody here heard about Volkswagen? All of you are sleeping, right? Anybody here heard about Volkswagen? That's good. So about 20% of the people heard about Volkswagen. Anybody didn't hear about Volkswagen? Raise your hand. 20% hear about Volkswagen, 1% didn't hear, and 79% don't understand my accent or are wondering what I want from their life. So Volkswagen came, and what did you have done with them?
I think the world of mobility is changing, especially in transportation. It's historically, in the last 100 years, we used to buy cars in retail, in shops, but it's getting to the point where we will be able to use transportation as a service. And in that kind, OEMs are seeking for the ways to sell mileage instead of the car. So you can buy 100 miles from Volkswagen or any other company. And obviously in this transition in mobility, We believe in building partnerships with the best in class. Should it be the automakers, should it be logistic partners, insurance partners. And we believe that in the coming 5 years, the transportation as a service will change dramatically the landscape. And in that new landscape, we want to create an ecosystem where every significant player and the best brand and its own can get a part of that value creation.
Yossi, I want to share a story. Dave didn't say it, but I'm going to say something about Gett, which is another amazing thing to me is that I also think, you know, when I take Gett in New York, I see the drivers and they come to work driving a car with a jacket and a tie, and they smell good and they're smiling and they're happy. And I think it's quite amazing to see people that have a purpose. You know, they wake up in the morning and they always have a job. So I think more than anything, more than obviously incredible financials and so forth, it's incredible to me to see how you can change people's lives by giving them always something to do. So I'm adding this to your pitch.
No, that's really amazing. Creating 500,000 jobs in 6 years is really something you should be proud of it. What your mother said when you told her that you are leaving whatever you were doing and you are going to bet on trying to make Gett the truth.
Right. Having Jewish mom, you know, it's always like maybe you keep doing what you've been doing before and not start anything new, right? It's you always keep it like it's been before. But I think it's not the first company we're building, but every time she has concerns and actually prefer to keep it quiet.
Look, I cannot ask Adam if he failed before because the guy came to the new business with a perfect record. He had 0 failures because he didn't do anything before that. Did you fail before Gett?
Oh, of course. I mean, more than once.
More than once. And how it affected your drive, your self-confidence, etc.?
I think obviously any failure is actually motivate you to do more because you know you want to prove to yourself, and in a way I found it actually beneficial. But at the same time, if you don't fail, it means somebody said, and I totally like that line, is if you don't fail, you don't try enough. You don't try enough, and obviously I don't know people who never failed. And I'm in search for people who failed and who admits that and who learn from that mistake.
And just I actually think that I fail and we fail at Taboola a lot. We call it the economy of good enough, which is essentially allowing us to try and make mistakes all the time. So once every Thursday if you're in Israel or Friday if you're someplace else, we have a weekly toast. It's not really with alcohol, but we call it a weekly toast. And then we ask people to share how did we mess up this week, which is counterintuitive to promote mistakes. But if you do it enough times, people feel it's okay to try. And then you can move faster and actually be better than your competition because you can make mistakes and move. So I would say we make a lot of mistakes. In fact, I encourage it.
Adam, when you first conceived Taboola, what was your vision then and how it's compared to what you are doing today?
So I had a dream. No, so I left the army.
You shouldn't say I had a dream. You should say I also had a dream.
Yes, and so I was watching TV. So the money.
Steinfeld, Samson.
Yeah, no, I will not say. So I was saving money in my army service, and I was very proud. I bought this like big flat screen TV 10 years ago, and I had my own room in my parents' house. And I was watching TV, and I couldn't find anything to watch on television. And I thought that I should not be looking for TV shows, and TV shows should be looking for me. And I did what every good Jewish boy does when they have a crazy idea. I went to my mother, and I told her, Mom, the future will be different. People will not search for information. Information will search for people. And she said, Son, I have no idea what you want from my life, but maybe someone else does. And she introduced me to someone else. So I think 10 years after, the vision of information finding people stayed the same. We started with video recommendation and we expanded to article and gallery recommendation. Now we even offer products. But my hope is that Taboola one day will be the biggest car sales company in the world. We'll sell more cars than anyone and more mattresses than anyone. And we already sell today meals more than anyone because people discover things on Taboola that they never thought they needed. And they become long-term clients of those things.
What was the size of your dream then? What did you think will be a good success?
I can tell you when I thought of a name for Taboola, I wanted Taboola with a U, which means a blank slate. So it's like I don't know who you are, and I'm trying to find out.
Like tabula rasa,
Yes.
clean table.
But Taboola with a U was taken. So, but Taboola with double O was not. And I figured, you know, Google has double O and Facebook has double O. And maybe one day we're going to have to buy one of them. So, you know, double O will make it easy to make the acquisition. So that was...
But what did you think? How many people, what revenue, what value?
Just you didn't laugh at my joke. It was a bad joke. The double O. No, I didn't know. You know, I was a kid that never had a job, and I never thought, well, you know, for me when I raised $200,000, it was like if today I would raise $5 billion. So my dreams got redefined over time.
So what you are saying that you arrived on this unicorn which you are building, or you are already behind the limit of unicorn actually by accident. You never dreamed that it will become so substantial.
I never imagined you know, I still up until now stops from time to time and have to like slap myself and ask myself if this is real.
You told me in the train that sometimes you look back to see that there is nobody behind you and then you punch yourself,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, today I was walking here and someone asked me, are you the founder of Taboola? And I was like looking back, I was like, are you talking to me? It's a bit, you know, it's still weird to think that, you know, dreams can come true. But I never thought that we'll have almost 1,000 employees and we'll generate almost $1 billion. These were not numbers that I had in my head, but I did think that my kids or my kids' kids will not live in a world that personalization will not be a big part of it. So I did know that. I just didn't know to attach any tangible numbers to it.
Dave, what was the size of your dream? And what did you think you are doing then, and how it's compared to what you are doing today?
We keep finding the environment changing around us every year. So to be honest, when we started the company, it was a significantly smaller perspective on what the business could be. And back then it was really a cool idea that when you can control with the tech, you can do something much better way. People liked to see that with technology you can click a button and a piece of metal come to you. So it was really back then about it might be just the next generation tech that can introduce innovation, and it will be limited to amount of people who use taxis. Very lucrative small segment. I remember back then we also talked to Yossi and other investors about it, and even ourselves when we've been presenting the model, we've been thinking about premium segment. 2 years later, just very quickly, it's got obvious that people in the cities are ready to give up on their cars, and as the moment you can provide them reliable supply, reliable transportation, they can switch overnight. And you know, the last numbers, I was shocked to learn that now, for example, in US, the average age when people get a license is now 2-3 years older than 16. That never happened before in US. So people start actually sharing transportation. When people been asked, the ones who own the car today, they've been asked, would you buy another car in 3 years time frame, or you will switch to on-demand? So people who after 50, 15% of them said, though I can buy a car, I will switch to on-demand. People in the age of 20 to 30, 60% of them said that in a 2 years time frame, they will not buy a new car and they will switch for on-demand. This is amazing shift for everything in the city. Right now, we have about 1 billion cars out there. And you can imagine that the moment they're shifting to on-demand, the amount of cars needed to be much less. And this is something that we couldn't imagine back then, obviously, but very quickly it became reality.
How far you are planning to take the company forward?
Well, we believe, though, it seems like everyone using on-demand right now. I mean, I guess everyone who's in this war, you know, in this hall, they definitely use on-demand. But the reality is that if you look at the mileage driven today, and there are 10 trillion miles driven every year globally, if you look at those mileage, you will find that only 5% of this mileage is done by on-demand. Means that we are still in a tipping point. So the Gett and Ubers of the world, if you take them combined as a class, we're just 5%. What is interesting, though, is that this class is keep growing at threefold every year. So we expect to be in 10 times in 10 years from now, anywhere between 25% to 50% of all global mileage. But right now, 95% of the mileage is done by ownership. And this is a big shift. So with all respect, everything been done until now was a tipping point to start actually growing. So we are 5%, we as a class, and we expect to be 25, 50% of the $10 trillion market opportunity. It's still a beginning. So I would say there are a few good years ahead to keep running.
Adam, where are you planning to take your dream?
So the next big thing that, I think the Taboola is going to spend the next 5-7 years is, so two things. One is to continue to help publishers and journalism to stay strong so that amazing content can live and we can all enjoy it outside of walled garden companies. So support the open web, and that will continue to take us more efforts. And then the second thing is I want Taboola to be in every size of screen that's out there. So I think that TVs should be shipped to people's homes with Taboola inside of them. And I think that mobile phones should be cheaper if they come with Taboola inside of them. So I think Taboola should be everywhere. I should wake up in the morning, look at my phone, and my phone should say, you're meeting Yossi later today. You should really read this story before you meet Yossi because he's going to appreciate that. And it's going to make me a better person. So I think that all of these recommendations should be everywhere, and we should and can help TV manufacturers, carriers, and other companies to enjoy this similar personalization category like we've done online.
Okay, now Dave and Adam, you watch the audience. And I would like to ask the audience, anybody who is planning or would like to build a unicorn, would you please raise your hand? We have quite ambitious audience, but not you also. Good. Not enough. Whatever is the right answer, never mind. When I ask the question again, please raise your hand. Who in the audience is planning or would like to create a unicorn? Raise your hand. Some people either don't understand my accent or don't know what I want. But you see, there are a lot of people who want the recipe how to create a unicorn. Adam, please.
What do you think is the recipe for a good entrepreneur, a good company to start and succeed?
At this game, I am interviewing you, and you answer the questions. When you invite me to your panel, you will ask, I will answer the questions.
So what was the question again?
The question is the recipe. The audience, each one in the audience would like to build a unicorn. You spent 10 years in building it. Share with us your experience. What worked, what doesn't work?
So I gave it a very simple one. I think it doesn't matter if you're the first to market, second to market, third to market. I think nobody cares, not in today's world. 20 years ago, it used to take 5-10 years to build a chip. Now things move way, way faster. So it's not a matter of were you the first, it's a matter are you the best? And to be the best, the only way to do it is, in my opinion, to build a culture that allows execution, like ninja-type execution. You have to be fast to market and have people that want to be part of your story forever. So if I had to take a bet, I would bet on a big market because you're going to change your story many, many times. So you have to pick something that if you change it 5-10 times, it still has a potential to be big. 2, build a culture that allows you to mess it up a little bit and continue to the next iteration. And 3, work with people that can make you better and will be with you forever. My CTO is 8 years with me, a COO is 6+. Most of our VPs are 5 years and above, and I think it's really, really, really important to build a company that it's like a family, and you try to scale this family over time, which is not easy, but big market, culture, and if you have to take a bet, bet people.
Okay, you heard the formula. Now each one of you shouldn't spend more time here, but go and create his unicorn. Dave, what is the formula? What is the secret sauce?
Yeah, I think as being a CEO, I think one thing that struck me is that your role in a company is changing pretty much every year, but no one tells you about it. So, and if you're blind to see this change, and if you don't have a good mentor or a good source of knowledge to pay attention to the changing of your role, then you might miss it. So the same great CEO who've been in the beginning founding the product, founding the team, etc., might be actually not that good in the following stage. So again, don't be blind. Be surrounded by mentors who can point out and change your role and being acceptive to change your role as you progress. This is number one. The second is actually similar. When we talk about unicorns, one thing that struck us, for example, we are just 5-6 years company, so it's still a startup. You grow threefold a year. It's definitely a startup. And the culture and mentality is a startup. But at the same time, you're already a big enterprise. And when you start to build people for $1 billion and more, you need to build these balances between how you be disciplined and structured and process-wise being an enterprise in a good way, and at the same time you keep to be an agile startup that still grows threefold a year. And I think it has to do again with your role as a CEO and how it should change.
Yossi, also, I just one more note is that I think the term unicorn is a bit of a bullshit term because I think it makes people make mistakes. So I don't think anyone cares.
It's not bullshit, it's unicorn shit.
It's unicorn. I mean, unicorn is a unicorn shit, and I want to explain is that really the only thing that really matters is your financial execution and what do you really do with your company. If you generate exciting top line, exciting growth, you keep actually margin, maybe you're profitable. So these things are things that are true across any industry. If you're worth $1 billion, but to do that, you had to give weird terms to investors, or you had to do funny things together so you can become a unicorn, I think it's a complete mistake. And honestly, nobody cares in any case. It just sets the wrong expectation for yourself, for your employees, for your investors. So I think the unicorn shit should go away, and the new unicorn should be around revenue and real metrics.
Dave, by the way, we forgot to ask you, speaking about revenue, can you tell us what is your revenue now, or it's private company?
It is private company. We do, as I said, I mean, we're close to $1 billion in revenues this year, and we keep growing at threefold year over year. So
after 6 years.
Still, yeah.
What your mother told you when you told her that you're approaching $1 billion revenue?
She's still in the same, like, take it slow.
Why don't you take a steady job, you know?
Right.
Why don't you go to work in a bank?
Something like this, yes.
Good. Anybody, by the way, any chance that anybody in the audience was a founder of a company which became unicorn? Nobody. And you know why nobody? Because what is the probability that you found a company, you create a company and it will become unicorn? Do you know the statistics? 1 to 1,300. 1 to 1,300 become a unicorn. So I think one thing is when you build a company, you shouldn't necessarily be disappointed if it doesn't become a unicorn. Our time is beginning to run. Tell me about the culture in your companies. How you keep so many workers motivated, engaged, working for the benefit of the companies, how you create leadership, do you assign responsibilities, etc. Adam.
So when I talked about the type of people that we hire, so to give you an example, and I mentioned passion, intelligence, and kindness versus experience. So as an example, our VP of Asia Pacific, which is one of our fastest growing markets, China, Korea, Japan, before he was at Taboola, he was a chef. So he used to cook before he joined Taboola, and now he has almost 100 people in Asia Pacific, which is over $100 million business and growing very fast. If I look at all of the C-level employees at Taboola, nobody knew what CPM or CPC or CTR or all these things. None of us knew what it was before we started or joined Taboola. So one, I think, again, experience is not as important as people that will catch up on what they need to know. The second thing is transparency. So we're probably too transparent, which will prevent us from going public in the same way we run today if we ever want to do that. But we're very, very open with our employees. The last employee or the first employee, everybody knows how much money we make, how much money is in the bank, all of that on a daily basis. And thirdly, we talk about mistakes.
Dave, culture.
Yeah, I think cultural focus is a key for any company to success, especially when you grow and it's getting out of the one room and it's hundreds of people. The only thing that really keep them together and create a company is a company culture. And that's, people expect from corporate culture to be some kind of winning strategy. It's definitely not. There is no the right culture or not right culture. It's about being really authentic. So everyone in the company share the same attributes. And when you do that, you need actually less policies for people to manage, because it's like in a tribe. You know, one tribe, I always say, one tribe like to play football, another one dance salsa. So they naturally, by the weekend, one group going to dance salsa, another one going to play football. They do it naturally, there's no policy.
Don't think I don't see you are living in the middle.
Sorry. So again, for Gett, this culture is about being professionals in what we do and get shit done. This is on the side of the execution. We do admire people who are excited to be best in their space professional, and they grow and they learn. On the soft side, it's about humbleness and positiveness. Again, it's not about being better or worse. It's about certain group of people who get comfortable together in a certain environment. And again, we see people, we put this culture up front. So some people just say it's not for me and they leave, and that's fine. We better have it in advance. And for the ones it does ring the bell, they join. So we believe in very transparent, being about who we are and actually focus on that along the line. That's what makes company more successful than others.
And yet, Dave, what keep you awake at night? What are you afraid of? What you are concerned about?
Right. I think, you know, you should be blind to think that, you know, any company or any business can work for itself. Obviously, we have multiple challenges. The biggest one I mentioned in the past and before is how you actually create this balance between being a startup and really keeping this culture and being really place for people who want to contribute and leave the signature and actually make an impact and move fast, and at the same time to be an enterprise that build for billions and build to be a public company eventually. So how you keep this balance, it's not an obvious thing. Another one is that we did not find examples in the history when technology company, being also operational company like Gett, that passed the $1 billion in revenues but still growing threefold. We didn't find any example, and there are good reasons for that. It's really technically very difficult. So we're aware of that challenge, and I think every day, every quarter, we continue to build this growth. We are also aware that it might stop, or we need to put an extra effort to actually keep it running.
Adam, what are your nightmares?
First of all, my wife wakes me, when I wake up, my wife always complains about something. So first of all, I always have the nightmare of what will she complain about when I wake up, because she's Polish.
You told me, if I may repeat it, that
Please.
she complained on the things you have done to her in her dreams.
Yeah, so she has dreams during the night about things I've done. She wakes up, she wakes me up, and then she complains. So that's definitely one nightmare. But outside of that, so one thing that I share with Dave is that one nightmare I have is how do I not become corporate company that there's processes and people add people to email so they look important and things start to take time. I hate it and I'm afraid of that, and I don't want to be in that company if it gets there. So that's one thing that concerns me. And the second thing, I'm very much in love with business growth. So I'm very close to big things that happen on the Taboola side, and I'm afraid to lose them, and I'm very, very happy if we win them.
We have another 12 seconds, very quickly. Who is your role model? Who is your role model? Dave.
Elon Musk, I guess today is the person who is outstanding and definitely a role model for me, yeah.
My dad. My dad plays the guitar. I grew up seeing him work like 18 hours a day, harder than anyone. I saw him only in the weekends, but he was super passionate doing it, very creative, and I think it gave me good inspiration for life.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, two builders of unicorns from Israel, Dave and Adam, thank you very, very much.